here, those are your whole number. And because your whole number, they have a common divisor, we can reduce them, which is, again, basically you can cancel them out, which is 4 going to 4 is 1 time, 4 going to 4 is 1 time, and 4 going to 8 is 2 time, which is, again, the answer should be -1 plus square root of 10 all over 2, -1 minus square root of 10 all over 2. Again, because 4 going to 4 is 1 time, 4 going to 4 1 time, 4 going to 8 is 2 time, which is, that's why I still have a 2 on the denominator. So everybody see that my answer is a -1 plus square root of 10 all over 2, -1 minus square root of 10 all over 2. And again, that's one thing about your final exam I want to point out is, as you can see, I make a mistake here without a negative. Make sure your final exam is a multiple choice. So make sure that you do it correct. And again, maybe your mistake is one of the answer on your final exam. So again, that's why if you, after you submit your final exam, just take a picture of your scratch paper, take a picture of your scratch work. Make sure you organize your class, your scratch paper for me, like label them number 1, number 2, and so on, so that when I look at your scratch paper, I can go back and say, oh, this is your small mistake here, and I can give you some portion point back. Because as of now, the final exam is basically there's no portion credit. It's multiple choice. It's basically either right or wrong. So again, if you, like me, just make this mistake and one of the answer is this answer, and you choose this answer without a -1, it will tell you it's wrong. And again, if you submit your scratch work, it has to be within 15 minutes. Take a picture of your scratch work and then send it to me in Canvas. Send it to my email, attach it, so that I can go back and give you some portion credit back. Okay, so make sure that's what you guys need to do if you want me to look at your work, your scratch work, and give you portion credit. If you have 100%, you don't have to send me your scratch work, right? If you have 100% on your final exam, then there's no scratch work needed. If you have like a 67 or 78 and some portion credit help you to get to the next grade, then send me your scratch work. Okay, so let's do one. I still have 3 more to go, but again, let's take a look at D here. As you can see, if you look at D, there is no way you can find me a multiple of, everybody see that there's no way you can find me a multiple of 13 that subtract or add to give me 7, right? So one thing, ladies and gentlemen, this is a small advice for you guys, that if you see that this thing cannot factor, your answer will have some square root in it. And the problem with D is your answer have something extra than a square root. Okay, but again, let's take a look at this thing here, which is, again, we cannot factor this, which is the last thing we have is we have to plug into your quadratic equation. To plug into your quadratic equation, we need to identify your A, your B, your C, right? So to identify my A, my B, my C, as you can see, all of them is positive. The A is 1, your B is 7, your C is 13, which is now, hopefully, you guys can see that all we need to do is say -7 plus or minus 7 squared minus 4 times 1 times 13 all over 2 times 1, right? Negative B plus or minus B squared minus 4AC all over 2A, right? And again, I got it this time, guys. I got a -7. Just kidding. Again, -7 plus or minus 7 squared will give me 49. Minus 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 13 will give me 52, which is, everybody see that we have this thing here, 2 times 1 is 2, which is, again, -7 plus minus. And again, what is 49 minus 52, which is, again, 49 minus 52 will give me a -3, which is, again, looking at this thing here, -3 does not have any perfect square, but, ladies and gentlemen, because of a negative inside a square root, what happened? If there's a negative inside a square root, remember, a square root of a negative number, you have to extract out an I, right? if there's a square root of a negative number, you have to extract out an I. There's no perfect square, but you have to simplify this by take out an I, which is, again, looking at this thing here, this is your answer, ladies and gentlemen. Your answer is, again, I have to take a look to see if one of the choice is plus or minus like this, or they separate it out like this. I know on MyMathLab, on Course Compass, they don't have, maybe they do. I know Math 130, they do. I don't know if 097, they have this simple plus or minus on MyMathLab. Maybe you have to type it out individually like this. Again, this plus minus is basically tell you is one of them is plus, one of them is minus. It's nothing unique. It's just a lazy way to write it, right? It's plus or minus here. So again, I don't know on your final exam. Like I say, I would double check on the final exam to see if they give you your answer in this form. Do they give your answer in this form, or do they separate into two? So again, over the weekend, I will double check and I will mention it on Monday for you guys to see what kind of form they have. Okay, but again, I'm pretty sure on MyMathLab you have to write it out twice. Unless they update it. But again, question with this thing here. Again, this thing here, you can reduce them. This thing here, you cannot reduce. That's why you still have a 2. Question with this C or this D, which is, again, hopefully you guys see that this thing here, 11.2, the only thing we do is we plug into your formula. And once you plug into your formula, all you need to do is simplify them out, right? The hardest part is the square root. And the careless mistake a lot of students do is they plug in the wrong value into your formula. Just like this problem, make sure, don't jump the gun and say A is equal to 6, B is equal to 8, and C is equal to 2. Looking at this thing here, reminder, whatever in front of your X is your B. And the other thing is, do not jump the gun and say A is equal to 6, B is equal to 2, and C is equal to 8. Okay. The first thing you need to do is you need to set them equal to 0 just to make sure of your sign, which is everybody see that the first thing I need to do is I need to subtract the 2 over. And because I subtract the 2 over, this is what I have is my A is equal to 6, my B is equal to -2, and my C is equal to 8. And again, once you can identify this thing here, hopefully you guys say that now is the smooth sailing, right? What is the smooth sailing? Which is, again, all you do is you plug in your B where your B is at, which is negative of -2 plus or minus -2 squared minus 4 times 6 times 8 all over 2 times A, which is 2 times 6, right? Which is, again, looking at this thing here, hopefully you guys recognize this thing here, which is 2 plus or minus 4 minus 192. You can check my math. 4 times 6 is 24. 24 times A is 192. And again, hopefully you recognize, the reason why I say hopefully you recognize is because right here, everybody see a smaller number minus a bigger number. And again, a smaller number minus a bigger number, there will be a negative number. And if there's a negative number in here, you should know that your answer should have an I in it, right? And again, the problem come in is, again, before we can say that this is our answer and just take out an I, you have to ask yourself, 188, do they have a perfect square in it, right? You can try and divide this by 2, and if you divide by 2, you can divide by another 2. Right? Or basically, this is what you have is 4 times 47. 4 times 47, what is the unique about 4? Because 4 is a perfect square. 47 will stay on the inside, which is, again, this is what we have. We need to extract out a, because it's a -4, we have to extract out a negative or an I, right? This is what I have. I have 2 plus or minus, because of this 4 right here. Because of this 4 is a positive, not positive, perfect square, I take out a 2i, right? So again, looking at this thing here, I have a 2, right? I have a 2 here. I have a 2, a 2 and a 12, which is I can reduce this, which is again 2, 2, and 12. I can reduce them to give me 1 plus or minus I square root of 47 all over 6. 2 going to 2 one time, 2 going to 2 one time, and 2 going to 12 is 6 times, which is again, it might be in this form on your final exam. Like I say, I will double check on that, or your answer will be 1 plus I square root of 47 all over 6, I minus 1 minus I square root of 47 over 6. So again, it's just split into 2. So again, either answer that we have, on the, if we were to take this in class, I would say, you can give me this answer here. I don't mind if we were to take this exam on paper and on the in class, you can give me this answer. I don't mind. But again, like I say, maybe on Canvas, this is the answer they give you. Okay. Question before we go over the last problem here. Any question? And again, hopefully you guys say this is compared to everything else, compared to chapter 7, compared to chapter 10. Hopefully you guys say that this is easy. Compared to chapter 6, 7, and 10, this is probably the easiest of them. Right. So again, the last problem I have for you guys is same thing go, right? 4x squared plus